So, it is the start of a new year, and I thought that the first video of 2024 would be me looking back on all the animated films I watched last year. I watched some great films, and some really bad ones. Note that I didn't watch all animated films that were released last year, but that may be for the better. So let's get bloody started with the worst animated film I watched last year. This was the worst animated film I watched last year. Like, DreamWorks didn't even market it, that's how you know it was bad. The film had okay animation with some interesting set designs. The character design was literally the worst. The Kraken designs are okay, but for me, the human designs were very creepy and uncanny. It's like they're staring directly into my soul. It has a pretty cliche story and is very predictable. The only highlight of the film for me was the battle bit at the end. The rest of the film was pretty forgettable. I have a feeling that in a decade this film will be forgotten, but will be remembered in a good light in 20 years.
I am not a demon. I am Mavka, the soul of the forest.
Wow.
Saw this on a film list near me, but went to watch another film instead. A film which, coincidentally, is also on this video. Mavka takes a very interesting Ukrainian folk story and makes it cliche and basic. There are so many tropes and stereotypes in this film. It also has a really weak villain, it wasn't really needed, to be honest. I applaud the studio who worked on this during the war. The animation was actually pretty decent for the budget they had. Take notes, Disney. The characters were bad and forgettable. I only remember Mavka and the flamboyant sidekick to the villain. I bloody hated that tree guy. I wish I could punt him into the void of space.
Right, another year, another batch of 5th grade head cases.
Let's just get through it.
Unlike a lot of people, I thought Leo was okay at best. The animation was good, and the character designs were also great, especially the designs of the kindergartners. The story, while predictable, was an interesting one. I feel like besides Leo, most of the characters were forgettable. The suicidal drone was probably the funniest part of the film. The songs in this film were bad and unnecessary, like Who Let Adam Sandler Sing? Again! At least there were some songs I remembered from 8 Crazy Nights. Well, maybe not for the best reasons, though.
Bitty, 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 bum, bum.
I think the message to the kids was a nice one. And for my final note about this film, Adam Sandler puts more effort into this film than most of his comedic films from the last 20 years.
Makes you want to get out there and join them, doesn't it?
Well, I'll see you.
So basically, the plot of Under the Boardwalk is just Romeo and Juliet, but with crabs. The animation is pretty nice, and I think the character designs are neat. Sadly, none of the jokes landed for me. Also, the main character is played by Michael Cera, and crushes on a character called Ramona? Was that an intentional reference to Scott Pilgrim or not? Well, we'll never know.
Bonjour.
I don't know much about this franchise, except that it is French. It was an okay film. I thought that the plot was decent and an interesting one despite some moments making me confused. Not going to lie, I don't remember much about this film, but this film is also a damn musical. Look, I ain't got nothing against musicals. I tend to enjoy them, but most of these songs were very unnecessary. The characters were forgettable besides the villain, who was mediocre at best. Maybe I'd have liked this more if I was a fan of the show.
I made her a bicycle.
Oh, what a...
This was probably the most disappointing film that I watched last year. The first film ended on a good note, but then they had to ruin it. The plot is unoriginal and is just reused from the first film, but now it's them breaking in. Wow, what a wacky idea, guys. The only great part is the animation, which isn't surprising as Aardman makes some of the most charming animated content. The characters were fine, but I couldn't get used to the new voices. I get why they had to recast some of them, but they could have brought back the original voice actress for Ginger. I really didn't like how they brought back Mrs. Tweedy. They could have had the scientist bloke be the standalone villain for this film.
Can be a little seedy.
Nothing weird going on here.
From disappointment to a decent surprise, Element wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Of course, it isn't one of Pixar's greatest films, but it beats some of the stuff they released in the past decade. The plot was definitely the weakest part of the film, and you could probably guess what happened at the end. I enjoyed the characters for the most part, besides that little Earth guy. He was just annoying as fuck, and super unnecessary to the film. The animation was gorgeous, and the world building was decent. If you're one of those doubters of this film, I would still give it a chance.
Alright, that's a go.
I love Mario. He was probably my favourite character growing up, and I've played all his games on the Wii. When I saw a Mario movie in development, I was really excited, which soon diminished when I saw who was making it. But when I watched it, I was surprised that I really enjoyed it. Firstly, there isn't really much of a plot. Like, there is a story, but you forget Mario and Luigi have parents until the end. It felt like the film was built on big action set pieces. This is definitely Illumination's best film visually, as it really captures the looks of the worlds in the Mario games. Character-wise, they are mostly enjoyable. Most of the cast gave a great performance, especially Jack Black as Bowser. Chris Pratt did an alright job for the most part. I really hope this film is a benchmark for Illumination to make great films, like how Spiderverse was for Sony.
Really sorry, Splinter. Some of the guys wanted to get pizza and I tried to talk them out of it.
You ratted us out.
Hey, don't use that word that way.
Finally, a good TMNT film. I grew up with the Michael Bay films, so my experience wasn't the best. The characters were really good, they were definitely the best part. Having teenagers play the Turtles was a stroke of genius. The celebrity performances were also good, as I didn't recognise most of them, besides Seth Rogen. The plot was decent and a unique one for a TMNT film, until the end where they fight Superfly. Like, you knew it was going to be a big action set piece at the end. The animation was stunning, with it emulating a comic book style with 2D and 3D visuals. The designs of the characters were great as well, as they don't look like anything we've ever seen in the franchise so far.
One is scared. He's a murderer.
He's a monster.
He's perfect.
I covered Nimona in a really bad video last year, so this section will be the updated version of that video. The animation is really good in this film, and similarly like TMNT, emulates 2D and 3D animation for spectacular visuals. The story has a good balance of fast-paced action and slow emotional moments. The characters were great. Nimona was a treat to watch, and I especially liked Chloe Grace Moretz's performance. The other characters were also great, like Ballister and Ambrosius. The humour was hit and miss for me, to be honest.
I can hear you being quiet, Mom.
You didn't expect this to be second, didn't you? I was really hyped for the sequel, as Into the Spiderverse is probably one of my favourite films of all time. Is it as good as the first film? No, but it's still a great film. It still has the great animation from the first film, even having scenes which have better animation. The characters have new challenges to conquer, especially Miles and Gwen. 2099, aka Miguel O'Hara, is a great antagonist alongside Spot. The music is probably my favourite aspect of the film. Daniel Pemberton does an amazing job blending a symphonic score with many different genres of music. The story is great as well, as we explore more of the Spiderverse and new places. I also enjoyed the joke that Indian Spider-Man made about the British. The performances are spectacular, pun fully intended. The film does end on a cliffhanger, which left me craving for more. Hopefully Lord of Miller doesn't overwork the animators this time. And my favourite animated film of 2023, in my personal opinion, was The Boy and the Heron. Wow, this film was one hell of a ride. It packs a lot of punches in its 2-hour runtime. The story was great, but not brilliant. It has all the emotion of previous Ghibli films in it. The animation is an absolute beauty to behold. I've always described watching a Ghibli film as like watching a painting coming to life to tell a story. The characters were also great, which was heightened by the performance given to them by the voice actors. The one I'm going to highlight here is Robert Pattinson's performance as the Grey Heron. It was an absolute treat to listen to. There is also some incest in this film. I bet you didn't expect me to say that. Miyazaki also brings back composer Joe Hisaishi for the score, which is always great. Overall, if you get the chance to watch Boy and Heron or How Do You Live, go and watch it. You won't be disappointed. And that's all the animated films that came out in 2023 that I watched. There was a big variety in what I watched, from small independent films to big budgeted films for the big screen. Hopefully this year we'll have many great animated films. Now, none of you have probably been wondering where I've been for the last couple of months, and well, I have been busy with college and preparing for my final assessments in May. Yes, I know it's only January, but still these exams are really important. However, for this year, I'm hoping to get a video out at least once every month. Well, except for May. So I hope you have a good year. I've been Firetail, and you've been a viewer, and goodbye.